When people talk about Far Cry, there's one game that never gets left out. This game is the embodiment of the old idiom, third time's the charm. It's the one that nailed the formula, the moment that Ubisoft finally struck gold. Sure, everyone remembers the rich jungle setting, the thrill of climbing rickety radio towers, or the unhinged pirate warlord who gave us one of gaming's most quoted lines.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
But the truth is, this game was more than just a charismatic villain and some chaotic firefights. Far Cry 3 was the moment that Ubisoft cracked the formula, the game that turned open world shooters into what we know them as today. The first two entries felt like experiments. Far Cry 1 was essentially a flashy tech demo, showing off Crytek's engine more than telling a story. Far Cry 2 doubled down on hardcore immersion, stripping away cinematic flair in exchange for gritty realism. Both had potential, but neither struck the balance. And then came Far Cry 3, the perfect storm. Hunting wildlife, crafting gear, scaling towers, liberating outposts, mechanics that didn't just define this game, but went on to shape an entire decade of Ubisoft design. So let's take a look back and see just how Far Cry 3 became the poster child of the modern open world shooter and what made this game so great. Far Cry 3 doesn't start with guns blazing, it starts with a highlight reel, a group of rich 20-somethings living their best life on a tropical island. Clubbing, skydiving, jet skis, kicking coconuts out of trees, pure chaos and pure privilege, fueled by someone's father's black card. But this cinematic display of careless fun ends as the phone showing this footage is pulled away, and some of the members of this fun vacation are now inside of a makeshift cage, tied and gagged, and the person in possession of the phone is the first person that we get to meet in this game. This is Vaas, a pirate and human trafficker operating on the isolated Rook Islands, a fictional locale similar to many Indonesian islands. Vaas, in my opinion, is the star of this game. I mean, hell, Ubisoft must think so too, since he's the one on the cover of the case. He's played by Michael Mando, and it's quite possibly one of the best video game bad guys of all time. He's a volatile, unpredictable, and excessively violent pirate leader who seems to take pleasure in messing with and torturing the people that he kidnaps. There's no extra money in it for him, and if and when he does execute some of these poor souls, he probably loses money, but I don't think he's motivated by the cash. Vaas is just here for the love of the game. Inside this cage are two brothers, Jason Brody, our player character, and his older brother Grant. Their vacation crew also included their youngest brother Riley, Jason's girlfriend Liza, Grant's girlfriend Daisy, and friends Oliver, Keith, and Vincent, all of which are unaccounted for at the moment, except maybe Vincent, as Vaas asks the brothers if he wants them to carve them up like he did to their friend. And Vincent is the only friend that we never see in the events of the game, only in flashback sequences. So I think Vince is dead.
Do you want me to slice you open like I did your friend? Shut the fuck up!
From the first seconds of gameplay, it feels like we should be playing as Grant. He's calm, collected, and trained, an army reservist who immediately takes control. He lures a guard to the cage, kills him without hesitation, and walks Jason through their escape. As they sneak through Vaas's compound, we see pig pens filled with human remains, piles of luggage from other kidnapped tourists, pirates patrolling with guns, and Vaas in the background executing other captives. But Grant handles everything like a pro, even nailing a guard with a perfect knife throw straight out of a John Wick movie. Grant is a badass. He's who we are supposed to be playing as in this shooter game, which is why it's all the more shocking when Vaas cuts their escape short by shooting Grant in the neck. Jason tries to hold pressure on his older brother's wound, but it's futile. Even if he could save him, he has to run. Vaas is screaming at him, saying that he respects his attempt to escape, and he gives Jason 30 seconds to run. And he has no choice but to leave his brother. Jason flees through this strange jungle, and at one point he gets jumped on by one of these pursuers, and he's forced to kill him in self-defense, turning the pirate's own blade against him. He is understandably shaken by this. Grant was dialed in. He killed two people without remorse, and Jason, faced with a life or death situation, is appalled at the idea of just having killed someone. But he doesn't have time to dwell on this as he still needs to run. Eventually, he falls into a river from a collapsing bridge and he's saved by a stranger. A stranger that heals him and who will also pull Jason deeper into the conflict of these Rook Islands that he is now trapped in, pushing him towards becoming something far more dangerous than the scared tourist he was just hours before, and allowing him to take the island and save his friends that may still be alive, including his younger and now last living brother. The intro to this game is a wild ride, and the game does not stop there.
You have the right to take my life. But no, I will also take yours.
Far Cry 3 was envisioned as a return to the series' roots thematically, a vast open-world shooter set on a lush tropical archipelago, but its path to launch was surprisingly rough. After shipping Far Cry 2, Ubisoft Montreal actually paused and restarted the project in 2010 when key creative staff left. That reset allowed the team to strip out most of the divisive elements of the sequel, like malaria and constant weapon jamming, and narrow the focus to a single protagonist so they could finally tell a tighter story. There is even a fun Easter egg for the game when selecting Master difficulty, as it reads worse than malaria. What emerged was Far Cry 3's core. The fictional Rook Islands, a huge sandbox described as the devs as the second most important character, where players could freely explore with guns, knives, bows, and later upgrade Jason's skills through RPG-like skill trees. Montreal treated the islands like a living ecosystem. Level designer Mark Thompson explained that every system in the game was built to interact in surprising ways. Kill a tiger with a bow and you can skin it for resources. Fire an RPG and you'll not only ruin its hide, but you'll alert the pirates nearby. Crafting was introduced as a reward for exploration. Skins and plants could be turned into medkits, ammo pouches, and wallets, but nothing was mandatory. Thompson stressed the team didn't want to punish players like Far Cry 2 did. The world should enhance your adventure and not hold it hostage. This approach keeps the action flowing. You can absolutely hunt down sharks to make a bigger wallet out of their skin, but you sure as hell don't have to if that's not what you want to do. To make the world feel credible, Ubisoft leaned into procedural tools. Instead of handcrafting rigid levels, the new and improved Dunia Engine 2 was used to generate terrain and cover layouts dynamically, which designers then refined. The result was a map that avoided obvious repetition, allowing for over 250 unique hostile encounters that the game would remember and cycle through, so returning to an area always felt fresh. Outposts weren't just enemy spawn points either. So gone are the days of constantly clearing the same outpost time and time again. Once you cleared an outpost in Far Cry 3, it became a safe point for Jason, allowing you to buy and sell items and save the game there, never to be taken by pirates again. Instead being occupied by the locals. Many outposts were deliberately placed at sites of industry to sell this idea that pirates needed these strongholds to survive, and taking them actually hurt their power in the area, whether it be a boating dock or a fuel depot. And once you cleared these outposts, patrols of enemies reduced drastically in that area as well. Thompson noted that everything on the Rook Islands was designed to exist for a reason, and Jamie Keane, the lead designer, described the world as both alluring and repulsive, seducing players even as it horrified them. Every ruin and creek on Rook Islands hints at a backstory. Thompson notes the designers embedded history into its environment. You'll find ancient temples and tribal relics and abandoned World War II bunkers scattered in this jungle, each telling a bit of the island's 1,000-year past. Friendly villages out in the wilds adds modern drama. Talk to locals and you'll pick up side quests that reveal what living under pirate rule is actually like. Even the odd eccentric person like Dr. Earnhardt, the herb doctor, became a deliberate touch, encouraging players to wander and collect plants for potions. In short, the island itself has stories, and by exploring off the beaten path, you build your own narrative as Jason. Underneath this expansive open world though, Far Cry 3 aimed to tell a darker, psychological story. Unlike other shooters, the team intentionally avoided a morality system. Mark Thompson argued that in Far Cry, morality was never black and white, but kind of a gray space, and the story should reflect that. Jason Brody starts as an ordinary college kid on vacation, but after being captured by pirates and forced to kill, the island steadily erodes who he was. Producer Dan Hay explained that players would see Jason's transformation, from scared and helpless to someone who begins to tolerate and even enjoy the violence, until he starts to resemble the very pirates that he's fighting, even mirroring Vaas in a face-off in the game. Jason's hallucination sequences, inspired by the dreamlike levels of Prince of Persia, were designed as moments of self-reflection, his conscious questioning the player's choices, in a way of showing PTSD that is gnawing at his psyche as he goes through these violent activities. Even Jason's friends notice the change. The easygoing kid that they once knew is replaced by an AK-wielding, tribal-tattooed Jason with blood on his hands. This descent into madness was not only intentional, it was the entire point of the game, which is why the game's loading screens are littered with quotes from Alice in Wonderland, with the quote, "In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was to get out again," being shown before the game even starts. A reminder that Jason, like Alice, is falling further into the Rook Island and its people without knowing how he will get out. The writers wanted Jason to be a blank slate so they can explore what it means to take a life in a game that rewards you for killing, which is why Jason was necessary and someone like Grant just wouldn't have worked to make the same notions. Grant was just too good at being a killer already. To emphasize that descent into madness, the writers leaned into heavy influences, films like Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter, and Deliverance, along with the surreal tone of Pulp Fiction and Requiem for a Dream. Lead writer Jeffrey Yohelem even called the game self-aware. While players may be having fun liberating outposts and hunting sharks, Jason is on a nightmare journey, killing to survive. Yohelem wanted the game to make players uncomfortable with that disconnect. Opposing Jason is one of gaming's most iconic villains, Vaas Montenegro. But Vaas almost didn't exist. Originally, the villain was a giant bruiser named Bull, basically a 6-foot, 300-pound beast of a man, later revised into another character called Pyro. But everything changed when Michael Mando auditioned. His performance was so magnetic that the team scrapped both early concepts and built Vaas entirely around him. Mando co-created the character alongside Ubisoft, infusing him with charm, volatility, and menace that the original villains couldn't have captured. He's only on screen for about 8 minutes in this game, but his presence defined the entire marketing campaign. Ubisoft knew that he was gold, so they slapped him on the cover of the game and they put him into nearly every marketing endeavor, including a machinima video series called The Far Cry Experience, where a live-action Michael Mando as Vaas is running his pirate's enterprise as he does in the game, but they capture actor Christopher Mintz-Plasse as he is filming a survival show on the Rook Islands. Vaas then uses Christopher's camera to film himself torturing Chris as a show to the audience. It was fantastic, with Vaas dropping some of the best one-liners.
That's right, I fucked your mama, you McLovin motherfucker!
It's so hot!
Talking about my penis.
Why is it so hot?
You can also find an Easter egg to this in the actual game, with the head of a character sticking out of the sand that's supposed to be Christopher Mintz-Plasse, but obviously they didn't model the character after him at all. Dan Hay compared Vaas to Darth Vader. Short screen time, but every appearance left a scar. That brevity was intentional. Yohelem even admitted that killing off Vaas at the midpoint of the game was inspired by Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, where the protagonist dies halfway through and the story explores the fallout of her absence. And Jason's relationship with Vaas, the victim versus the tormentor, was designed to cement Jason's early weakness, making his eventual transformation into something darker, almost having Jason filling the shoes of Vaas, and that is hinted at several times in the game. I mean, hell, that is what Citra's trying to do with the California Kid from the start. All these narrative threads and influences feed back into the island setting. Dan Hay emphasizes that they wanted the Rook Islands to feel real and full of mystery. He stated, "We treated the island like it had a history of 1,000 years of civilization, meaning every rock and ruin hints at something ancient." He even left the player with unanswered questions on purpose, believing it's more interesting than spelling everything out. Some journal entries in the game also allude to some dark history of World War II on this island, hinting at someone afflicted by PTSD or lost in madness. The entries for both the seagull and the jellyfish being incredibly ominous rather than informative of those animals. The seagulls reading, "Every night I watch the skies from inside my bunker. They'll come back. If I watch, they'll come. I can hear their voices from the sky calling out my name. There's the ridge, the guns in the jungle, screaming, smoke, the blood all over my hands. Nothing to do with beach pigeons. The jellyfish ones being even more ominous. The screams through the night, the hot air of explosions shaking the treetops, the bodies, some faceless, they were only following orders. Some creepy shit. Ubisoft wanted to balance the story with the design of the game. Montreal's design team worked out when to let players get lost, whether by hunting animals, taking outposts, or hang gliding off mountaintops, and when to pull them back into the narrative. The island's various biomes also introduced new threats other than pirates. Dense jungles hide leopards or tigers, rivers and caves hide murderous crocodiles, you can straight up see NPCs get murked when standing too close to the river. And even the beautiful shoreline holds sharks that will attack on sight. This game is like nightmare fuel for people with thalassophobia. And of course, Far Cry 3 wasn't just Montreal's efforts, it was a global production. Ubisoft Shanghai built many of the single player missions and wildlife systems. Massive Entertainment in Sweden handled all the multiplayer and co-op. Reflections in the UK contributed to vehicle work. Red Storm in North Carolina developed the PC version, and Ubisoft Bucharest handled QA. To keep this giant machine running, all studios worked from a shared code branch. Montreal would commit changes at the end of their day, and when Sweden woke up, Massive could pick up those updates immediately, sometimes to their benefits and sometimes to their horror when things would break overnight. But everyone shared the same vision. As Massive Entertainment's David Polfeld said, that collaboration made a strong vision even stronger, ensuring that Far Cry 3 felt like one seamless experience rather than stitched together parts. By late 2012, years of iteration, experimentation, and international teamwork had paid off. What Ubisoft shipped wasn't just another open world shooter. It was a primal sandbox where every ruined temple, tiger ambushed, or drug-induced cutscene carried the weight of its turbulent development. The result was a game whose island setting, gameplay systems, and story all blended together into a wild, unforgettable experience. Compared to the prior game, Far Cry 3 has changed quite a bit, an even more drastic change than the differences between Far Cry 1 and 2. Some things carried over, like the open world gameplay and strategic approach to combat scenarios. There are outposts still, but changed very much so for the better, now being able to be claimed by you and not restocked immediately with gun-toting enemies. There is a large selection of weapons, even more varied than Far Cry 2. Fights are still dynamic, even more so. Instead of just fires breaking out, now there is some more environmental factors, like wild animals that can take part in the onslaught. And the brutal healing animations also make a welcome return. But there were also a few things that were stripped away from the combat too. No more crippling malaria bouts requiring an emergency pill pop to fix your vision. No more weapon degradation. Weapons function good as new whether you buy them from the store or pick them up off a dead enemy. And these things being left out is no doubt a net positive for the series. But Far Cry 3 didn't just slightly modify the gameplay, they completely revamped it. The game now has a skill tree system that allows players to unlock perks and skills in 3 different skill trees. The Heron tree is focused on long-range takedowns and mobility, offering perks that increase accuracy and aim with scoped weapons, but also some sick takedown moves like death from above or below, as well as buffs to movement like being able to sprint infinitely or reducing damage from falls. The Shark tree is for assassination moves and healing perks like buffed healing syringes, taking less damage from explosives, or just getting more health slots in general, as well as several different takedowns, including the first basic one that you learn in the game. The Spider tree is for stealth takedowns and survival, with skills relating obviously to taking on combat without being discovered, like sprint sliding, faster crouch movement speed, and being able to run and reload at the same time. And takedowns that are silent and hidden like knife throws or being able to hide the body as you do the takedown. Also some general survival perks like getting more skins when killing an animal or leaves when harvesting plants. The skills also present themselves on Jason in the form of a tattoo that grows with each skill that you unlock, kind of a sick inclusion to represent Jason's growing as a character. or warrior rather. As you can tell from several of the examples of skills that I just listed, there's a ton of shit that was not in Far Cry 2. Crafting syringes and harvesting animal skins, stealth gameplay in general, let alone knife throws or takedowns. This game has changed quite a bit. Takedowns and stealth are perhaps the biggest gameplay flow change for combat. While you could try to stealth in the earlier Far Cry games, there was no rhyme or reason to when an enemy may spot you and just start shooting. Usually after killing one or two guys, even with a silent weapon, the rest of them will just start shooting at you knowing exactly where you are. In Far Cry 3, stealth is not only possible, it's actually one of the most viable options, and some of the main quests involve going undiscovered. This mission right here sucks, by the way. It's not the most in-depth system there is, but it is pretty good. There's a stealth meter that shows when an enemy sees you, and enemies are responsive to noise as well, so distractions like wild animals or throwing stones is a great tactic to redirect their attention. Takedowns, as we discussed, come in many shapes and sizes, but most of them are there to allow you to kill dudes silently and effectively. Most of them are also pretty sick animations, but there are ones that are there not for stealth and just there for the cool factor, like the grenade takedown. There is also way more stealthy weapon options in this game, with guns able to be customized with suppressors and other things, as well as getting a hunting bow, which is one of the best weapons in the series, which is a far cry from the second game, which only had a silent dart rifle and a silent pistol. And you also get a camera that lets you scope out enemies and mark them, allowing you to not only see them as they walk around on the map, but also giving you an idea as to what type of enemy they are. Getting discovered from stealth in certain missions is an instant fail. Again, this mission sucks hard, but out in the open world, not using stealth also has its drawbacks. Outposts now have alarms that enemies can trigger once they know you're there, and they send waves of reinforcements that are a pain in the ass to deal with. In the late game, these reinforcements are like juggernaut armored dudes and helicopters, so definitely not ideal. So taking enemies out undetected is a tad easier, or at least disabling the alarm before going in guns blazing. But you also get more experience for being stealthy too and using takedowns, so if you want even more skill tree unlocks, you are rewarded for being a sneaky boy. I suppose we should discuss these outposts though. Outposts are small strongholds that the enemy pirates have over resources in the area. They usually have about 5 to 10 enemies of different shapes and sizes, like sniper dudes, armored guys, dudes that sprint at you with machetes, and sometimes even guard dogs that are a bitch to try to remain stealthy around. There is a ton of them in the game, 34 of them to be exact, and each of them are different. Some have caged animals within them that you can shoot and then have that animal escape and wreak havoc on your behalf before you head in and clean things up. It's amazing, and sometimes the animals can clear the whole camp on their own. And once the outpost is clear, they aren't restocked with enemies, but instead the island locals move in to claim it, giving you a spot to fast travel to buy guns and supplies from, and also get some side quests that are posted on a bulletin board in the outpost. These side quests are either hunting based, called Path of the Hunter, or enemy killing based, called Wanted Dead, and both are straightforward, offering money and experience, with the hunting quest also having a legendary animal version to hunt a one-of-a-kind animal, like an albino crocodile or a golden tiger, whose skin are usually required for one of the final crafting components for an item, which again, there is crafting now. Crafting is very basic, but beneficial to take part in. You can make better holsters, ammo pouches, and wallets that allow you to carry more of those items. It starts basic, for example the first wallet upgrade only requiring 1 pig hide, but the final one requiring a legendary one-horned buffalo skin, taking the money you can carry from $1,000 to $10,000. Or the throwables pouch starting at a capacity of 4 using just 2 goat skins, ranking up to carrying 12 throwables if you hunt down the legendary blood komodo. None of these things are required or necessary, but they fill the open world with things to do and they make the gameplay much easier. You can't even hold more than 1 weapon until you get all the holsters crafted, allowing up to 4 at once. You can also craft syringes that require different colored leaves that you can gather across the island. There are 12 different syringes that you can use, ranging from the basic healing one, a hunter's instinct which highlights animals, or enhanced perception which highlights enemies through walls. But there are also some sick advanced ones too, like untouchable, which makes Jason invulnerable for a short amount of time, or fireproof, which I feel like you can figure out what that one does. These different animals and plants that that you need to craft certain items are a big reason to explore the map, but surprisingly not the only reasons. For one, to even look at the entirety of the map, you have to unlock it in blocks by scaling radio towers and unjamming the signals, giving you access to the map and a sick overview of things to explore in that area. Like outposts, there are a ton of radio towers to conquer as you trek across the Rook Islands, and all of them are essentially the same.
Same, but different.
And if you aren't satisfied with the laundry list of outposts, which have side missions too, or radio towers, or just hunting animals or plants, you can also chase down other collectibles, like relics, which periodically give rewards as you reach certain milestones, like signature weapons or fancy syringe recipes. They chant when you're close to them too, so they're easy to track down. There are the Letters of the Lost that are, well, letters, a sort of world-building background for the Rook Islands. These letters written by Japanese soldiers during World War II stationed on the islands, usually to their family members back home. They are completely non-consequential to the story of the game, but a neat lore for the Rook Islands. You also get a Japanese tanto to replace the machete once you collect enough of them. The last collectibles are the memory cards, which are like the letters and are just world-building lore for the Rook Islands, showing information on certain drugs and how they made their way to the island, and how the pirates make more money than just relying on kidnapping. Each memory card gives some cash reward when found. On top of collectibles, there is even more to do. More side quests helping various Rocket people around the island, trial missions where you fight waves and waves of enemies, supply drop quests where you race a timer to deliver medication, general races, sharpshooting competitions, knife throwing, and even games of poker. There's just a ton of shit to do, and all of it is completely optional, but usually it's a fun time. As a series mainstay at this point, the vehicles used to traverse the island are both relevant to the terrain and location, but also varied and pretty enjoyable. From buggies, quad bikes, and scavengers, this game's version of the Jeep Wrangler, I guess Ubisoft lost that Jeep license that they had going, to beater cars, technicals, and cargo trucks. There are quite a few ways to get around the trails and the beaches. On the water you get jet skis and small boats as expected, and of course the hang glider makes its welcome return to the tropical setting, with plenty of high points to leap off of to get a great view. And this game takes that even further by giving Jason a wingsuit as well about halfway through the game, allowing him to leap off of everything and glide around. Needless to say, there is a ton of things to do and explore on this map, which is a far cry away from just gathering briefcases with diamonds in them in Far Cry 2. Some may see that as a bad thing, but I like the incentives to explore and get lore of the island personally, and of course getting some reward for doing so that boosts your gameplay. But it is entirely optional. With that being said though, let's discuss the story of this game, because like the gameplay and open world exploration, the narrative design has been entirely revamped, with Ubisoft slinging us a fantastic story. The game starts as we went over before. Brothers Jason and Grant are captured in a cage in a pirate camp, and Grant powers his way out as Jason follows, until Grant is shot in the neck and Jason is left alone to run away. He falls into a river and he's rescued by a stranger. The man who rescues him is named Dennis. Jason wakes up to him tattooing his arm and tells him that he sees the heron, the spider, and the shark within him, alluding to the 3 skill trees in the game, and he calls Jason a warrior. He introduces Jason to his village and the people of the island called the who are under the suppressive rule of the pirate warlords, and Jason's escape is cause for celebration for them, as it's good news. Dennis goes into how special the Rook Islands and the Rakyat people are. He says they accepted him when he was lost, and now it is home for him. He gives Jason some cash to go buy a gun, and here Jason still proves how helpless and scared he is.
I've never shot anyone before.
He wants to save his brother and his friends, but he still hasn't come to terms with what that really means. Dennis tells Jason he needs to learn the island, so he sends him up to the radio tower nearby to destroy the scrambler that the pirates have on it in order to regain control of the tower for the people. It's not long before they intercept a radio message from the pirates saying that they have one of the Americans, who Jason identifies as Liza, his girlfriend, springing them into action, taking down the first outpost. And after taking it down and killing his first few men with his new pistol, Jason is applauded by the locals, saying he is worthy of the tattoo that he has been given. Liza is not at the outpost though. A radio message comes through saying that she escaped her pirate captors and ran off into the jungle. Dennis tells Jason that they did find one of his friends though, and she is safe at a local doctor's house named Dr. Earnhardt, so Jason heads off to see her. The girl that Dr. Earnhardt rescued was not Liza though. Instead, it was Daisy, Grant's girlfriend. The doctor says that Daisy is very sick after running through some toxic plants, and he is unfortunately out of the antidote, so he sends Jason off into some caves nearby for some mushrooms. And this brings us to our first drug trip for the Far Cry universe, another mainstay for the series from here on out. Jason tramples through some toxic fumes and the caves start transforming around him, giving him visions while he overhears voice lines from his girlfriend and his brother before their trip. Eventually though, Jason gets to the shrooms and he heads back to the doctor. While he cooks up the medicine, Jason heads to speak with Daisy, who's now awake. He tells her about Grant dying and vows to save everyone that he can. He even convinces the doctor to allow him to send his friends to his house after he saves them. And he only agrees to this because he seems to think that Daisy is someone named Agnes, perhaps a late wife or something. So he agrees on her behalf. Dennis calls Jason shortly after and tells him about a beached ship named the Medusa that has a satellite dish that the pirates use for communication, so Jason can intercept their messages from there. On the Medusa, Jason learns that Vaas is recording ransom tapes for some of the Americans at a place called PC. Jason also learns that after the pirates get the ransom money for the captives, they don't even send them back. They sell them into slavery and make double the money. So it's imperative that Jason saves them as there is no other way out, even with Daddy's black card. Jason is roped back into helping Dennis and the Rakyat though. He destroys a weapons cache at a lumberyard before they can use it to attack Dennis's village. For doing this, Jason is told that PC probably stands for Pirate Cove, a prison camp located at Sunset Cove. So Jason makes the move to infiltrate the camp, killing patrols on the outside before making his way into the cave where he hears his girlfriend's voice calling for help. So he runs in ahead and he barges into the back room only to find the room empty, just playing the video that Vaas has already recorded with Liza on a projector. And soon after, Jason is ambushed and knocked out. He wakes up tied to a chair with his friend Oliver and girlfriend Liza there as well, but more pressing is the other person there, Vaas. This is the second time we meet this pirate warlord, and like every other time, he steals the show. He interrogates Jason on where he got his tattoo from. He asked if his sister gave it to him, and then he goes on a loosely related tangent about Jason having jungle fever and wanting to kill his own sister, which comes off as pure insanity the first time you play this game because you haven't even heard of Vaas's sister before this. But Vaas clearly has some family issues going on.
You see, the thing about our loved ones, right? Our fucking loved ones! They come and they blindside you every fucking time. So they say to me, they say, Vaas, who the fuck is it going to be? Them or me? Me or them? like, you know, like they fucking think that I need to make a fucking choice. By the way, this lighter really sucks.
Vaas then gives Jason the lighter that he has been trying to spark this whole time to set them on fire, saying that it sucks before tucking it into Jason's shirt, and then igniting the room with a match instead. For some reason, they snatch up Oliver and leave, but they leave Jason and Liza to burn, saying that it sucks that Jason has this tattoo now because the only way to kill him is to completely destroy him. But of course, Jason and Liza make it out. The floor collapses, allowing Jason to break free from his chair, and he runs back up to free his girlfriend. And then they make a jump for it before the whole building comes down. This jump also reminds you that these aren't superheroes or action stars, just normal kids in a fucked up situation. Because Liza's jump is a stumble at best, and Jason's isn't much better as they tumble into scaffolding and fall to the ground. They make it to a vehicle and dip, while Jason laughs and remarks how cool the explosion was when the building fell. And then he picks up a grenade launcher and obliterates every pirate trying to chase them down, laughing and cheering as he does it.
Did you see that explosion?
After they escape, Jason of course celebrates, but Liza turns out to be the queen of buzzkills. But realistically, she's been through some shit, and so has Jason. But clearly, what Jason has done up to this point has affected him differently. changing him. Jason drives Liza back to Dr. Earnhardt's house where she reunites with Daisy. The doctor has the group of travelers hide out in a cave under his house so they aren't discovered if and when Vaas stops by to visit, as the doctor helps them with drug supplies. Daisy and Liza reconnect in the cave, and Daisy even puts her efforts into repairing an old boat in order to escape the island. Also in this cave, after Jason saves somebody, the doctor leaves out some red berries for Jason to take, and they trigger a flashback for him. They all show glimpses into the night before the crew gets captured. They're at a club in Bangkok and are partying. The first flashback after saving Liza depicts them all taking shots and celebrating Riley, Jason's younger brother, after getting his pilot's license, and has Grant talking about his time in the army. But after getting Liza settled, he tells her that he needs to go and save the others, and she's hesitant to let him leave, but he's very motivated. And Dennis calls just as he exits, telling him it's time to meet Citra, the person who can give him the strength to defeat Vaas. Citra is the leader of the Rakyat people, and she resides at a temple deep in the jungle. She initially wants to kill Jason for being in the temple as an outsider, but once she finds out that he wants to be a warrior and Vaas has his brother, meaning that he's heavily motivated to defeat him, she allows him to help. And she tells him to drink a vial of something and bring her what is lost. This potion he drinks triggers another drug hallucination, where he falls from the sky and finds himself at a table with his missing friends, before seeing a mysterious man in white and following him through a rapidly changing landscape, ending in a shantytown shack. In one of the sequences, Jason gets several more interesting visions. One of a man with a tattooed chest towering over his crying friend Keith, a vision of Vaas holding a gun to his head yelling at him to end it, and the side switching replacing Jason as Vaas. And finally, another strange man circling around his brother Riley in a chair. At the end of his dream, Jason picks up a knife, a ceremonial dagger, and he wakes up to Dennis tattooing him, who then leads him in the direction of a shantytown in search of the man in white and the knife. Jason makes his way to this town where he sits at the local bar playing poker, waiting for the man in white to just show up. The locals are telling tale of Snow White, a captive who escaped from Vaas's camp and is now killing pirates with a machete. A story obviously about Jason. His legend is becoming widespread. And soon enough, the man in white does show up, and it's obvious that he knows Jason as well. So Jason tails him through the town back to the shack, just like in the dream. Once inside, the man is gone, and he announces over a speaker to Jason that he will blow the shack up with some C4 in 10 seconds if he doesn't tell him who he is. The strange man is pleased to learn that he is in fact Jason Brody, the legend Snow White. The stranger shares with Jason that he already has locations on his friends, Oliver and Keith, and he's willing to help Jason, but he needs some help in exchange as well. The man in white turns out to be Agent Willis Huntley, a CIA agent who is on the Rook Islands on his own mission, but happened to take an interest in these missing Americans as their interests align. Willis is investigating a man named Hoyt, the leader behind the pirate kidnapping and drug empire that is going on. He is the man who employs Vaas, the head honcho. Willis's plan is to have Jason burn drug fields and boats of packaged drugs in order to have Hoyt come to the island in person to handle things, being beneficial to both Jason and himself. So he sends Jason off to the drug fields with a fancy new flamethrower to get the job done.
Flammenwerfer. Flamethrower. This beauty was invented in Krautland.
This turns out to be one of the most memorable missions in the game that doesn't involve a monologue from Vaas. Much like the mission in San Andreas before CJ and Truth ride out to San Fierro, Jason runs around like a madman with a flamethrower burning crops of weed and enemy pirates alike, catching a contact high from the fumes and jamming out to the soundtrack of Skrillex and Damian Marley. It's a fantastic time. And it ends with Jason destroying a boat carrying a bunch of packaged drugs, sure to royally piss off the man in charge. Jason returns to Willis infatuated with his new toy.
I love the flamethrower.
Those Germans, what can I say? They know how to light stuff on fire.
But there has been some new developments. Willis has gotten his hands on a conversation between Hoyt and Vaas about how disruptive this Jason Brody has gotten, and Hoyt sounds even more unhinged and mad than Vaas does. On the tape he mentions stopping by a small town called Barristown that has a transportation manifest that likely has the location of Oliver on it, so Jason goes to the town before Hoyt can get it. Hoyt is already there though when Jason arrives, forcing handcuffed civilians to run across a minefield. One One of these civilians being a man that Jason has to save, as he knows the location of this document that he needs. So Jason guns down a bunch of Hoyt's men attacking this city, allowing him and the man to get the document safely and learn the location that Oliver is being transported to. And with that, he goes to intercept and attempt to rescue yet another of his friends. Oliver is being transferred to a fishery in the jungle. He's going to be put on a helicopter and taken to who knows where. So Jason starts blasting at the guards from across the river as Oliver runs to safety. Oliver grabs a boat and Jason hops into it, manning the machine gun on the back as they escape. Oliver is much more easygoing than Liza was when Jason rescued him, complimenting Jason's tattoos and even cheering on as Jason murders people. But he does break down a little once the action has settled.
Man, this is some heavy shit, man! I don't know if I can deal with this.
I know you, Ollie. You're stronger than you think.
Soon enough, they make it back to Dr. Earnhardt's house to reunite with the others. And back in the cave, Liza is building a cross for Grant, reminding Jason what happened to his brother, with Liza again pointing out how much this island has changed him.
Okay, and you're carrying all these weapons and you have all these weird tattoos.
There is also a new batch of red berries for Jason to eat, causing another flashback. This one involves some dance moves in the club and shows the crew meeting a guy named Doug, the one who tells them about the Rook Islands, and turns out to be a spotter for Vaas, someone that lures tourists to the island in order to get them kidnapped. The flashback also focuses on Keith, the next friend you get to rescue. It shows him as a hothead who is always trying to start fistfights with people, trying to brawl with some locals over a girl in the club.
Riley, shut the fuck up and go get me a beer. You're acting like a pussy. What?
After leaving the cave, Willis gives Jason a call saying that he's tracked down what happened to Keith. A hitman named Buck purchased him from Hoyt directly, and he's in the same shanty town that Willis is in. Buck is an interesting character. He's got a cute little deer tattooed on the center of his chest, hence his name, and he's quite the jokester.
Ah, him. He said his name was...
You're hysterical.
Turns out, Buck wanted something from Jason. He knew Keith was his friend, and he uses that as leverage in order to have Jason go on a scavenger hunt for an item that he wants. A familiar looking knife. The next few missions involve Jason going to various locations hunting down the knife, and it's a bit of padding honestly, but the missions are fun enough. He infiltrates a ship that supposedly has the knife but only finds a piece of a compass, and this compass leads to a Japanese World War II bunker which has some ancient Chinese runes as well, and here he finds another piece to the compass, and that leads him to a mining facility which results in a third piece to the compass, and finally that leads him to an underwater cave and ancient rune that actually has the knife both Buck and Citra are lusting over. Every time Jason finds a new location and clue on this treasure hunt, Buck seems to appear before Jason gets there. There are many theories as to why this is. Buck could be a hallucination for Jason. Buck could be working with the pirates, ambushing Jason at each location, or simply it's just lazy writing by the developers, but it is very odd that he just keeps showing up every time knowing exactly where Jason is.
If you knew where I was supposed to go, why didn't you just tell me?
Jason. Don't get your knickers in a twist.
Anyway, Jason gets the knife and now he has to exchange it with Buck in order to save his buddy Keith. He knows Citra also wants this knife, but obviously he's going to put his friend's life over this crazy jungle woman that he's only met once. When he sees Keith for the first time in Buck's basement, it's clear Buck has done some things to him. And Buck shows up and tells them that neither of them are going anywhere, so a knife fight ensues. And this is the first knife fight that you will do as Jason. But every main antagonist that Jason goes up against in this game is handled by knife. Jason slays Buck, and in his shock he says, "I got you," while staring at the knife. Kind of interesting, but he very well may have been talking to Keith too. Either way, he takes Keith back to the others in the cave. Keith tells Jason that he thought he could handle his shit, and he was the tough guy in the flashback starting all these fights with the Thailand locals, but it's clear whatever Buck did to him made him feel emasculated. I mean, it's pretty obvious what happened to him, and he tells Jason to please not let the others know. Jason tells him that he's just got to save his brother Riley and then they can get back to California and forget all of this happened. And Keith responds to this by saying that Riley is dead. He saw him get shot. Jason understandably crashes out. He goes on a monologue about how Vaas and Hoyt are gonna pay. They not only killed one brother, but two. This is no longer a rescue mission, he is now just out for blood. Liza tries to comfort him, but Jason aggressively tells her to kick rocks.
I can take care of you.
Stop making this about us!
What are you talking about?
My brother just died, and I need to deal with it on my own, okay?
Okay. I'll be here if you need me.
After rescuing Keith, you also get the chance of doing the final flashback sequence. It starts with more dancing in the club before the locals that Keith pissed off come to the dance floor and try to fight everybody. But the crew handles them, and then they laugh about it as they run away into an elevator. And here we see Doug again. And this is where the pivotal idea of going somewhere extreme is proposed by the secret pirate scout. He tells them about skydiving onto this island where you can do anything, and the crew eats this idea up, sealing their fate.
We're in. So where's this island?
Jason leaves the cave and heads to Citra to give her the knife and get the resources he needs to kill Vaas and Hoyt. Citra, once learning of Jason's bloodlust, tells him some ancient warrior that vowed to slay a giant shadow demon. The warrior gave his body the Tatau, and he was able to cut off the giant's head. He says the descendants of the warrior are the Rakyat people, and now a new giant has risen. She asks Jason to earn his Tatau and save her people, and she will give him the power to kill Vaas and Hoyt. A caravan is coming through town carrying Rakyat prisoners, and Jason helps the Rakyat ambush the caravan and free the people. But this turns out to be a counter ambush as once again Jason opens the APC and it's Vaas in the back, and he knocks Jason out once again. Jason wakes up on top of a cenote with his hands and ankles tied to a cinder block with Vaas staring back at him. Vaas gives his infamous insanity monologue here.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change.
Insanity, according to Vaas, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. He could be talking about Jason rushing in to save someone and then getting ambushed like he did when he was rescuing Liza, or he could be talking about himself, ambushing Jason twice and leaving him for dead in a near impossible situation to escape from, but alas, Jason escapes. Either way, it's a great monologue because it shows just how unhinged Vaas is. He is scatterbrained and rambling, and he even ends it by asking the same question one more time, emphasizing that he is the one who is insane here by his own metrics, before kicking Jason into the water, leaving him for dead. But of course, Jason escapes once again. He has no weapons or supplies this time though, so he must make his way through this pirate village unarmed, or at least until he takes the weapons of the men that he kills first. Jason makes his way to a helicopter that is taking off, and he hops on board and uses the pirate's own pistol to make him fly them away, but an RPG soon ruins those plans. They come crashing back down to the ground, and Jason, in a fiery wreckage, sees Vaas approaching him, who draws a pistol on him and asks him yet again,
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
and he shoots him in the chest. But surprisingly, Jason still isn't dead. He wakes up in a pile of bodies, saved by the lighter that Vaas put in his shirt the first time he left him for dead in a burning building. Dennis also happens to be here when Jason wakes up, and he rushes off to inform Citra of Jason's survival, while Jason heads to a small outpost to retrieve his gear. Back at Citra's temple, Jason meets with her, and he's feeling himself. He tells the Rakyat soldiers to leave them, and they listen. Citra then gives Jason another drink to make him hallucinate, and this time it summons the giant shadow demon from Legend, making Jason literally complete the prophecy of this legend. And while Jason is fighting this giant, Citra is having sex with him. You can kind of hear her moaning in the fight if you listen hard enough, but it becomes obvious when Jason wakes up to find her on top of him. Citra states that Jason is now a warrior. He is a Rakyat, and he becomes a leader of sorts as he yells out and proclaims they will defeat the pirates. Also, I guess all these dudes were just sitting here watching Citra date rape Jason, which is kind of weird, man. Jason heads off now to infiltrate Vaas's compound. It's a big battle that leads to Vaas getting the better of Jason yet again, popping out and stabbing him in the chest with this ancient dagger, but this doesn't really make any sense. Along with many encounters such as the Buck missions, things are not adding up, and it's hard to tell what is real and what is a vision for Jason. Getting stabbed in the chest would just kill him, no? And also, how does Vaas even have this dagger? Nothing adds up. Jason starts tripping again, seeing visions of himself, Vaas, and Citra, with all the characters interchanging, also portraying Jason's madness. Nothing is real. He then confronts Vaas, who asks if he's enjoying his sister, revealing for the first time that he is Citra's brother. Jason then shoots him in the head, and then starts shooting a bunch of Vaas's that start running up at him with knives, while Jason screams, "Why won't you die?" And Vaas screams,
"Let me into your heart! Accept me as your savior! Nail me to the fucking cross! And let me be reborn!"
The vision ends with a knife fight. Jason does the Arya Stark knife drop to defeat Vaas, falling to the ground next to Vaas's body. But who knows what is still real at this point, as Vaas glares up at Jason before he passes out. And then another relevant Alice quote is shown to us after this, cementing this madness. "Have you guessed the riddle yet?" the Hatter said, turning to Alice again. "No, I give it up," Alice replied. "What is the answer?" "I haven't the slightest idea," said the Hatter. Jason wakes up in Citra's temple, still hearing the echo of Vaas telling him he is fucked. Citra explains to Jason the history of Vaas, how her brother was led away by Hoyt, turning him into a monster hungry for drugs and money. Jason vows to kill Hoyt for Citra, for ruining her family just as he did to Jason's. Citra's response to this is to ask what Jason is going to do about his friends, where he says that they will just leave on a boat and he will stay on the island with her. Dude fell in love with her very fast, or maybe he's just still drugged, who knows. From here, it's time for Jason to head to the southern island where Hoyt's compound is, and take him out for good. He reaches back out to Agent Willis, who offers him a plane ride to the island, but he'll have to jump for it. But he does give him a cool wingsuit though, so it's not really that bad. He gets a contact from Willis for a mole inside of Hoyt's inner circle, a mercenary named Sam. He finds some mercenaries playing poker in a bar, and he whistles the US national anthem as a signal. The man named Sam gets up and they officially meet behind the building. Sam is ready to help Jason take down Hoyt. He's a trusted man on Hoyt's staff, and he is confident that he can get Jason close enough to do the job. But he tells Jason they have to destroy the whole organization and not just Hoyt to truly take it all down. He also tells Jason that Hoyt doesn't know what he looks like, and only that he has the rock yacht tattoo on his arm. So he proposes they get Jason a recruit uniform to hide his identity with long sleeves, and get Jason into Hoyt's army. First, Jason has to go get a recruit uniform. He goes through this long, arduous process by sneaking into an underground recruitment area and taking out a recruit while he's in this point surrounded by people, instead of just killing someone out in the field and taking a uniform there. But who knows why he does this? Maybe he needed a brand new recruit uniform so he could ensure that people don't know the guy's name or face. Anyway, once Jason is properly disguised, he gets a little orientation from the man himself. Hoyt is here, giving a pep talk to the new recruits, telling them the consequences of breaking his simple rules, and showing this by example by burning a man alive in a small cage. He also says the man who brings him Jason Brody's head will receive their very own island. So it's very clear that Jason is high on his list of priorities. During this orientation meeting, some pirates ask Jason if he wants to make some extra dough, saying that they have some business going on behind Hoyt's back. I guess the burning of a man alive shtick didn't really scare these guys. Jason comes up with a plan to get into Hoyt's good graces by taking out these traitors and telling Hoyt their plans. Jason and Sam take out these traitorous pirates to get close to Hoyt. Jason takes down a bunch of captains for a roll sheet that lists all those involved in this coup, and Sam finds some more sinister operations they have to stop as well, disarming some bombs they placed in some of Hoyt's drug fields, which were meant to topple a massive source of income and power. With these missions accomplished, Jason, now known as new recruit Foster, is awarded an audience with Hoyt. Hoyt gives Jason a long speech about how he runs his global enterprise, ruling his employees with fear and appreciating the reach that he has from New York to Rio to Hong Kong, continuing his chaotic presentations that he seems to do every time we encounter him. This time, blowing up a boat full of captured people because the person he was negotiating with didn't want to give him the money. He then asks Jason to go interrogate a prisoner that he has downstairs, and he's excited to watch another professional at work. On his way down, Jason spies a guard watching a snippet of his and his friend's vacation footage, the moment that they were captured by the pirates specifically, which raises a few questions to say the least, like why did they say that Hoyt doesn't know what Jason Brody looks like if he has this footage that shows his face? And also, watching this footage should also tell Hoyt who this prisoner is as well. As Jason goes to approach this prisoner to get this over with, surprise surprise, it's his younger brother Riley, the The one he was told was dead by Keith because he saw him get shot. And yes, he did get shot, but he's still alive and kicking. Since this interrogation is on video, Jason has to immediately start beating on his brother to sell this interrogation, and he really sells it, digging his thumb into his younger brother's bullet wound, causing Jason to look at his hands and ask what he's become. Another realization that he's come very far from the scared prisoner that he was not too long ago. Sam briefly cuts the camera feed to allow Jason to explain the situation to Riley, telling him that he'll come back to save him, but he's gotta beat him up a little bit more. Hoyt, pleased with the display, invites Jason and Sam to play some poker with him later that night, seeming to cement his placement in his inner circle of trust. And this is the moment the duo will use to kill Hoyt, but first they need to prepare. They first go and destroy one of Hoyt's communication satellites to leave the guards in the dark when shit pops off. Jason clears this area with a blinding rage, and he even shoots down Sam's chopper as he flies in, killing Sam. Not actually. Actually, that was just my dumbass on autopilot. Jason kills all the guards and then flees in Sam's helicopter, blowing up the satellite dish. And to further cripple Hoyt's organization, just so no one else can pick up where he left it, once they kill the man, they go into a large fuel depot and destroy all the stores of gasoline that he has there. During these expeditions, Dennis calls to check up on Jason and ask if he has killed Hoyt yet. Jason says that they're on the way and that Hoyt also has his younger brother Riley, so he's going to save him as well. And surprisingly, Dennis tells Jason to kill Hoyt, but forget about his brother. The Rockyats are his family now, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Anyway, Sam and Jason head back to play some poker with Hoyt. Sam has a knife in his boot and he's ready to slash Hoyt's throat during the game, but it doesn't get that far. Once they finish their first hand, Hoyt takes out his own knife and jams it into Sam's neck, killing him, and then chuckles looking at Jason's hand, telling him that they have the same cards. A funny way to say that he knew their plan and he too had the same plan, since it's obvious he knew that this Foster guy was Jason Brody from the start. They continue to go through a couple of hands, bantering back and forth, except no longer betting chips, but instead betting Jason's life on every hand, with Hoyt chopping one of Jason's fingers off after he lost a hand. This leads to one of those dream sequence knife fights with Hoyt, where Jason of course wins, killing Hoyt in gruesome fashion, coming back to reality into the office surrounded by dozens of dead guards. And this time, Jason actually did black out and just kill everything in sight. Sam died, but it wasn't by Jason, thankfully. During the knife fight, Hoyt tells Jason that Riley is at the airfield getting ready to be flown out of the islands. So now that everyone here is dead, Jason goes to save his brother, killing dozens of more privateers and finally freeing his brother, having him use his newly gained pilot's license to fly a helicopter out of there and back to Dr. Earnhardt's house. But it's not all smooth sailing from here. They arrive to the doctor's house on fire, with a mortally wounded Earnhardt outside. He tells Jason that it wasn't the pirates that did this, but instead it was the Rockyats who came and kidnapped all of his friends and destroyed the doctor's house. Confused now, Jason has Riley fly him to Citra's temple and see what the hell is going on. And once they get inside, Riley too is taken, and Citra blows some magic dust in Jason's face to put him to sleep. And in this dream state, Citra explains that Jason is big and strong and nearly a perfect warrior, but he's not free of his past. His past is what is holding him back. His past, of course, being his friends and family. But it holding him back doesn't make any sense at all because he accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish. So what is it holding him back from? Jason walks a path of fire with a ceremonial dagger, hearing voices of flashbacks and demonic forms of his girlfriend Liza telling him how evil he's become with blood on his hands and tattoos on his arms. At the end of this vision, Jason comes to holding the dagger at the throat of Liza, and here you get the choice to end the game how you want. You can either save your friends and leave the island, leave the idea of being a Rockyats warrior and go back to California, or you can kill your friends and stay and fulfill the prophecy. Saving your friends, which is the sane option by the way, has Jason cutting loose his friends while Citra berates him, telling him that he will no longer be a warrior and he is throwing it all away. Citra seems more sad and heartbroken than mad, to be honest, telling Jason that she loves him and wants him to stay, but before she can finish pleading, Dennis runs up, furious that Jason turned down Citra, the woman that he's been infatuated with since arriving on the islands. And Dennis in anger goes to stab Jason, but Citra, proving her love for Jason, moves in front of the attack, causing Dennis to fatally stab her instead, with her last words telling Jason that she loves him and for him not to leave. Dennis goes and cries over her body like the cuck that he is, and Jason dips with his friends. With the ending monologue from Jason going over how much he's been irreversibly changed from this experience, but he still has the power to move on, as he and his friends are seen sailing away in the boat that Daisy was repairing at the doctor's house. Now, if you want to take the chaotic way out, you can kill your friends instead. Jason slits Liza's throat, and soon after, he's banging Citra again. And this time, she is chanting about him being the chosen one of prophecy. And now they will have a child that will rule the Rakyat, and he will be the perfect warrior. She also states that Jason replaced Vaas in the scenario, and I'm not really sure if that means that Citra was going to procreate with her brother to make a perfect warrior or not, but either way, once this fun session is done, Citra plunges a knife into Jason's chest, killing him, telling him to die like a warrior, which he obliges. And the end just shows the same coastline view, but this time there's no boat escaping and no monologue, just silence as the credits roll. Far Cry 3 isn't just remembered for its chaotic open world or the iconic villain, it's also a surprisingly sharp character study, charting the transformation of Jason Brody. He begins as a privileged California party kid, vacationing with friends on his buddy's black card, but when a skydiving trip lands them in the hands of pirates, Jason is forced to fight for survival, going from frightened tourist to ruthless killer, and the game makes sure that you experience that unraveling alongside him. At the start, Jason is hopelessly out of his depth. His brother Grant takes the lead during their escape until he's killed, leaving Jason alone. Jason's first kill is clumsy and desperate, and the game lingers on his horror. His hands shake, his breathing panics. It's a jarring moment, one that underscores how unprepared he is for violence. But Rook Islands doesn't allow innocence for long. With guidance from Dennis and the Rakyat tribe, Jason is introduced to their culture, marked as a warrior with the Tatau tattoo. Slowly, survival demands outweigh fear. He learns to hunt, craft weapons, and fight back against these pirates. And at first, he's still very hesitant, but he adapts quickly to his surroundings. Each battle he has strips away more of the old him until survival begins to feel natural. Where other shooters stumble into ludonarrative dissonance, the player mowing down enemies while the story pretends that the hero is squeamish or something, Far Cry 3 really leans into it. Jason doesn't just adapt to killing, he actually starts to enjoy it. The first time it felt wrong, he admits, but now it feels like winning.
You know, I never thought I'd be able to kill someone. The first time it felt wrong, which is good, right? But now, it feels like winning.
Are you okay?
Soon he's yelling with joy while torching drug fields or blowing up pirate convoys. His friends recoil in horror at the change, but Jason embraces it. By mid-game, he's unrecognizable, heavily tattooed, feared by pirates who call him Snow White, and frighteningly efficient with guns and blades. His cockiness and aggression border on sadistic, making the player question whether Jason is still the rescuer or if he's already the monster. Jason's transformation is encouraged by Citra. She feeds his ego, immerses him in hallucinogenic rituals, and seduces him to sever his ties to his old life. In her eyes, Jason can become the great warrior that her brother Vaas was meant to be. Vaas himself is Jason's dark reflection, a man consumed by violence and madness, a glimpse of what Jason is risking becoming. Their eventual confrontation isn't just a straight shootout, but a surreal, dreamlike battle where the two men blur together. When Jason kills Vaas, it feels symbolic. He hasn't just defeated his enemy, he has inherited his madness. By the end, Jason's duality comes to a head. He wants to save his friend, but also he loves this power and purpose violence has given him. Citra forces the issue, offering him two paths: abandon his old life or embrace the island and start his role as her warrior. If the player chooses Citra, Jason murders his friends, only to be rewarded with his own ritualistic death. It's the full plunge into darkness. Jason becomes the monster that he fought, and then he's discarded once he's served his purpose. If the player chooses to save his friends, Jason defies Citra. She dies in the process, and Jason sails away. Yet his narration at the end admits some truth. He has become a monster through his actions. There is a sliver of redemption here, but the ambiguity is the point. Jason might heal, or he might permanently be broken. Far Cry 3 closes by putting Jason's fate in the player's hands. Do you let him descend into the abyss, or do you try to claw him back? Either way, the journey has already changed him. Jason Brody's arc from spoiled thrill seeker to blood-soaked warrior is both exhilarating and unsettling. The game offers a power fantasy while reminding you that power always demands a cost. Perhaps the true definition of insanity. Far Cry 3 was a lot of firsts for the series, and in the same respects, it's the first game to have some DLC as well. Of course, there are the usual cosmetic packs that give some knife skins or tattoos, or add some unique predators to the game to be wary of as you make your way through the already hostile jungle, but there were 2 mission packs as well, that actually had some content. The first one only available through pre-order from GameStop or EB Games, and it was called Monkey Business, which introduces one of the most iconic non-villain characters in the franchise, Herc. A lovable, goofy dude just living his best life where he finds himself planted. Jason finds him strapping C4 to monkeys to have them get his dirty work done.
He blows up around them other monkeys. It'll scar them little dudes.
Fire in the hole!
Vio con Dios, little buddy.
Anyway, Herc gives Jason the job of the monkeys once the monkeys go MIA, and he has him stealing some diamonds from a ruin, killing some rock yacht turncoats, and infiltrating and destroying the privateer's weapon stash in an old sub base. He also helps Herc escape captivity once, rescuing him and his boat named Big Sally. These are obviously just some fluff add-on missions, but they are actually quite fun. And it's impressive that they actually had the content match up with what's going on in the world. Like the diamonds going to help the Rock Yacht people, or destroying the weapons of Hoyt's army to help the cause of the main issue of the game. The main selling point was the cutscenes though, involving Herc. His dialogue was consistently off the wall and incredibly entertaining.
Oh, and Citra's 100% MILF, man. Malaysian, I would like to fuck. Come on, man. Put in a good word for me.
Which is why he returns several more times in the franchise as a lovable, only slightly aligned character to the main events of the games. He never forgets his first friend on the Rook Islands though.
Bonded by blood, man. I got tattoos for me and Jason, me and Jack, and I'm saving my back for me and AJ, man. Triple J, triple threat.
The second mission pack is called Lost Expedition, and this one's only available from pre-order from Best Buy. There is less to these missions. There are kind of just explorations of old rocket silos or research facilities, hinting at a more cryptic past on the Rook Islands. But there's no underlying story or anything, just some quick missions and some new places. One of the places is a research facility that gives me big Far Cry 1 vibes, and others have logos of the Assassin's Creed games on files for Jason to find, and at one point Jason even says, "Would you kindly?" as he presses a button, and he even uses an accent similar to Atlas from BioShock.
Would you kindly activate?
I guess they added a bunch of Easter eggs because there isn't any actual content here, so it's just an entertaining, fun little time. Both DLCs, while originally exclusive, are included on some versions of Far Cry 3, like the Deluxe Edition. And also, if you get the game on Steam, it comes with all the DLCs as well. They are just fun little side missions that are completely inconsequential to the game as a whole.
No big deal. No big deal, man. For the last 10 years, shit has been stagnated. The old was the new. But there is more happening now than in the last decade, man. I decree this totally fucking awesome. You done good, monkey. You done real good, monkey.
Far Cry 3 rewrote the DNA of Ubisoft as a publisher, and arguably the entire direction of AAA open world design for the next decade. If you ever booted up a modern Ubisoft game and felt like you've been here before, you're not crazy. You've just been living in the shadow of Far Cry 3. Because this is the game where Ubisoft stumbled onto a formula that was so efficient, so endlessly recyclable, that it became their corporate comfort food. Far Cry 3 blended sandbox chaos with almost checklist-like structure. Here's a tower, here's an outpost, here's a map filled with icons begging to just be ticked off like you're playing an open world Excel sheet. And people loved it. It worked. And for the first time, Ubisoft had cracked the code to making an open world feel both dangerous and guided. This formula wasn't entirely invented out of thin air. Far Cry 2 had the seeds with its factional combat and freeform exploration, and Assassin's Creed had its own collectible heavy towers before it. But Far Cry 3 was the moment that it all crystallized into something that felt polished, addictive, and most importantly, profitable. Ubisoft realized that they could drop this structure onto anything. Pirates in the Pacific, native assassins in colonial America, hacker hipsters in San Francisco, and players would eat it up. It's no coincidence that from 2012 onward, Ubisoft games started feeling less like individual projects and more like different flavors of the same dish. Far Cry 4 was basically Far Cry 3 but with a Himalayan seasoning. Far Cry 5 was the same loop but now with cultists in Montana. Even Assassin's Creed pivoted hard into this approach, with Origins and Odyssey adopting outpost clearing and skill trees that felt ripped right from the Rook Islands. You weren't just playing different Ubisoft games anymore, you were playing the Ubisoft game. And it wasn't just Ubisoft either. Other shooters took notes too. Outpost style encounters became a staple across the genre, whether it was Shadow of Mordor's Fortress system, Mad Max's compound raids, or even Horizon Zero Dawn's bandit camps. The influence of Far Cry 3's structure, this balance of systematic combat arenas mixed with icon chase and exploration, bled into nearly every major open world shooter of the 2010s. Now, some critics argue this legacy is a double-edged machete. On one hand, Far Cry 3 gave us the incredible sense of freedom, of being dropped into a lush sandbox where chaos could unfold in 100 different ways. On the other hand, it also gave birth to the Ubisoft map game stereotype, bloated checklists, recycled outpost clearing, and the dreaded tower climb. And by the time Assassin's Creed Unity and Watch Dogs rolled around, the formula was showing cracks, and players were starting to joke that every Ubisoft world was just another map full of chores to do. Still, even if it became a meme, you can't deny the impact. Far Cry 3 mainstreamed this idea that an open world didn't just have to be big, it had to be interactive, dense, and rewarding. It set the blueprint for how AAA studios structured their games for years to come. If Grand Theft Auto gave us the cinematic sandbox, Far Cry 3 gave us the systematic one, built around outposts, wildlife, crafting, and that addictive dopamine drip of clearing off icons on a map. In the end, Far Cry 3's true legacy isn't just Vaas or Jason's descent into madness, it's the fact that Ubisoft accidentally struck oil in 2012 and spent the next decade pumping that well dry. Whether you love it, hate it, or are just tired of climbing radio towers to reveal another region of map icons, you can't deny the fingerprints of Far Cry 3 are still all over gaming. It didn't just change Ubisoft, it changed the entire industry's idea of what an open world shooter could look like. And for better or for worse, we've all been living on the Rook Islands ever since. Thanks for sticking with me on this long journey. Far Cry 3 has been one of those games that I wanted to talk about since I started this channel, so it was a little overwhelming to try to fit in all my thoughts about this game into this video. I didn't initially want this video to be this large since I am also working on another very large project with GTA 4, but I hoped you enjoyed it nonetheless. Shout out to the patrons and YouTube members for holding it down after about a month without any uploads. I appreciate you. Hope to see you next time. Peace.